This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
Welcome to today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. I'm Roby Brock. Glad to have you with us. It's Monday, and John Brummett from the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette is with us. Happy Monday to you.
Same to you.
Did you have a good St. Patrick's Day?
You know, it almost went by without my noticing it.
Really?
Did you wear green? And
I did wear green in my socks. I had to speak to a Society of Professional Journalists group.
Oh, really?
On Saturday.
Really? And did it in green socks?
I was just impressed that I was asked to come speak to a society of anybody that calls himself professional journalists these days.
Well, I'm sure you gave them a great program.
I'm sure I did.
About new media?
I got a feeling that all of the comments were about everything that I said, perhaps.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Let us begin with state government this past week. We had a kind of an active end of the session.
Yes.
With Asa Hutchinson speaking to the Political Animals Club, going after a conservative group of folks in Northwest Arkansas, and then making this kind of unexpected announcement about reorganizing state government. Let's begin with reorganizing state government. Is this campaign tactic because of his right flank, or he has been working on this for a little over a year? Is it a little bit of both?
Probably a little bit of both, but the timing would suggest it's campaign motivated. I was watching some of our old episodes. Is that what you call them? Episodes?
I'll call them that.
Yeah. And when Jan Morgan announced first of the year, I said, we're getting ready to enter Governor Hutchinson's right-wing season, and he's just going to govern as an ultra right-winger. I wasn't sure I was right, but I was more than prophetic. I mean, he has surprised even me with the consistency and fervor. He must have some polling data that says the problem I know he has on his right, it must be more potentially troubling than even I thought, because he has just, from open carry to the special session with every conservative notion in the world, and now he finds it necessary to announce that we're going to reorganize state government. Let me be clear. Reorganizing state government does not reduce the size of state government necessarily. When Dale Bumpers told a story, when he became governor in 1970, he went to see his brother, who's a big-time businessman. He said, look at what I've got down here. And his brother said, nobody can run something like that. It's the most unwieldy. You've got to reorganize all that and have fewer people reporting to you and more delegated authority to larger chunks of it. And he did the reorganization of state government into what, 13 agencies.
I can't remember the number,
yeah.
but Rockefeller had pushed for it, but couldn't get it through the Democratic legislature.
Well, of course not. That's how that all worked. Bumpers did everything that Rockefeller couldn't get done, but it was hailed as a great reform. Since that time, you know how inertia is; things just fall out, and 42, was it? He said
40, I think it's 42 or 43
42
state
agencies essentially at cabinet level reporting to the governor. That's ridiculous. And it's time. It's time to pare it back, put things together logically, reduce the numbers of overseers and people who are cabinet level to the government. It's a perfectly responsible thing to do. But one, it in itself does not reduce diddly. It just reorganizes what's there. It is most likely that it will facilitate some efficiencies, but it's a 50% reduction he's calling for in the number of cabinet level people supporting him, not a 50% reduction in spending.
We will not see a
government.
50% reduction in state government spending.
There was a little clever financing about a 50% reduction. It was a 50% reduction in the number of units that organized in the way they're organized, but not in the size or scope. May produce some efficiencies, but I mean, what is this, mid-March, and the primaries?
We got about 2 months to go.
I had to be a factor in it. He's been working on transformation. He's been talking to me about transformation of state government. It's what he wants to do, but it's been very systematic. He can't begin this reorganization until next year. There was no compelling reason, just as there was no compelling reason for about a half dozen of those proposals in the urgent special session.
Well, there were 9 in the special session on the call. There was maybe only 1 maybe 2 that rose to that level.
I'm going to go with 1.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, it was
there was a workaround there too.
There was. Yeah, they could have avoided it.
We digress. I'm sorry. You were making a point.
Well, there's no reason for the timing right now. He can't get it done in terms of legislation until the next regular session. It needs to be studied. He could announce it at any time. I think he's, and his campaign Twitter account is heavy with the defense of with attacks on federal guidance on transgender bathroom. He's just gone all in.
He's covering the right flank.
He's gone all in on his right flank. And I'll be glad when, as I put on Twitter myself, we need to go hurry up and have this primary before Asa hurts somebody, and we'll just have to hope nobody gets hurt too badly.
Well, let's go a little bit more into the politics of this the right, the challenge from the right there. He comes out publicly and for the first time really makes a point of going after Conduit for Action. Criticizing how they have structured some of their political action committees and how they're using their money, criticizing some of their media outlets that they use. And I think he was in Northwest Arkansas and did it again later in the week.
Up at the Political Animals?
Yeah, I think he went out.
I missed that and didn't read that he did it there. I just have really two things to say about that. One, I was surprised. I mean, I agree with them about this group. They are very well funded. They've organized themselves with all these tentacles. I didn't know for the longest time until a few weeks ago that a radio show that a lot of conservatives listen to every day and quote. I think it's a small universe, but it actually is a conduit function.
Yeah, I think they have a media organized group.
But traditionally or conventionally, you might think that calling attention to these people would not be what you want to do. But the second point is, if you feel a need to call attention to them, then it advances my theory that somewhere there's some polling data or something, this empirical reason for the governor and his campaign to say, we need to find 2 or 3 more conservative things to do this week, and it's time to take those people on, so that if they begin to make a difference, we can have established some context. I was surprised that it happened, but it must be revealing of more concern on his part even than I knew, and I knew he was somewhat concerned. There was, in the Pope County area, a special Senate primary, Republican primary last week.
That you tried to line up as Asa versus Jan.
A surrogate. Right. I mean, you had a lobbyist, what's her name, Breanne Davis, who Asa was all in for, gone up there and done fundraisers for. She's a consummate Republican state capitol insider. Then you had a guy named Bob Bailey who was a gun guy, Jan Morgan guy, Conduit was all in it for him. And Pope County, as it happens, votes in primaries about like the state does. So I said, let's just see what we've got here. And what we had was 55-45 for Breanne Davis over Bob Bailey. Asa's side 55, anti-Asa 45. I don't think that's a big enough margin in Pope County to give great comfort. I think it's sort of a nebulous number. There's no reason for you to panic, but it's no reason for you to be comfortable either.
Right.
So I think that's what's going on here.
All right, let's take a quick commercial break and talk about the flip side of the coin in politics when we come back with John Brummett. I'm Roby Brock. We're back right after this.
Arkansas Electric Cooperative Corporation provides electric energy across 2/3 of Arkansas. This is an exciting time in our energy history, with incredible progress being made in renewable energy and storage technologies. As our energy portfolio continues to diversify, we'll maintain an all-the-above strategy to provide reliable and affordable electricity. Ever since the first light bulbs were placed in our members' homes, the electric cooperatives have been the solutions provider for our members, and we want to continue that well into the future.
Each day, the promise of our nation begins again. Arkansas and America, moving forward. I help make that promise a reality. It's not for everyone, but people everywhere depend on us.
Oh, I love you too, sweetie.
Trucking delivers, or everything stops. And that's what drives me.
I did.
Welcome back to the program. I'm Roby Brock, joined by John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. All right, let's talk about things happening on the Democratic side of the campaign aisle here. A lot of attention being focused on Congressional District 2, particularly after Pennsylvania 18 special election, where the Democrat pulls out this upset by the slimmest of margins. Once again, we see a very heavily red Republican seat in a suburban area go to the Democrats. do you still think that it is a direct correlation to what might happen here in central Arkansas? I'm still a little wary.
I'm wary also. I'm always skeptical. I'm always dubious. And we've experienced enough of the deep Republicanization of our state, and particularly the suburban areas of Little Rock, that we're going to be dubious. But here's what happened. The Democrats have been thinking they have a chance to take back the House in the midterms, largely on the basis of districts where the numbers are good for them, the history's good for them. You look at the way the Trump-Clinton race played out, and they might get to 28, 29, 30 or more. Connor Lamb won by that much, but he won.
Right.
In a district that Trump won by 19 points, that is a Republican, heavily Republican, suburban district of Pittsburgh. It's not Pittsburgh. It begins south of Pittsburgh in an upscale suburb, and then goes into a more rural area, exurban or semi-rural areas beyond that. And it had not been part of the calculation, and yet Connor Lamb wins it. And the fact that he ran close would have been remarkable, but subject to certification, and he won it. So the New York Times has this, you know how they do these analytical pieces. Is this a blueprint for Democrats elsewhere? And it identified these number of districts that were sort of like the one in Pennsylvania 18 that now, based on this, could newly be in play. And I'm reading the article, and it's a fine article. It's for political junkies. I'm thinking this is good. And right down at the bottom, do you know what district they cited as an example of what they're talking about? The 2nd District of Arkansas, where we are.
Which has Conway and Benton and Bryant and some suburban areas.
It is somewhat similar in that it is heavily Republican, suburban, and exurban areas. You got Saline, Faulkner, White County. It's different in that Lamb didn't have any of the inner city Pittsburgh vote. The Democrats have it here. Furthermore, the New York Times piece didn't just cite the 2nd District as a place where they think that Pennsylvania 18 calculus would apply, but they told me something I had suspected but had not known, which is that the DCCC is excited about and had aggressively recruited State Representative Clark Tucker to run. We've got 3 other fine folks running.
Gwen Combs, Jonathan Dunkley, Paul Spencer.
Right, and who all bring their own passions to the race, and Tucker seems sort of to be, is clearly the establishment candidate, but Tucker is the one they quoted, and Tucker said that he intends to run on a throw the bums out. He thinks that works. Now, just to be clear, what's happened in recent years is that Democrats have carried Pulaski County, you know, 54, 55, 56, 57%. And the early vote pushes them out to a good lead, and our first returns on the air show them ahead. Then here comes Saline County, and they've been giving about 70 to 75% to the Republican, and that wipes it out. And then Conway comes in Faulkner County, and that puts the Republican ahead. And that's what's been happening. Vic Snyder used to win this district by getting that 57, 56, 57, 58 in Pulaski, and then not hemorrhaging so badly. There's something about Vic that a few of those conservative Republicans liked, that he was a Marine, that he was obviously a straight shooter. So the Democratic thinking suddenly is, since the Democrats have the 2nd District, since they lose it overwhelmingly in the suburban districts, maybe what Connor Lamb did in the Pittsburgh suburbs portends that maybe there might be just enough Republican voters who will not like what's going on, or might be moved by the some sort of Trump disaffection or whatever, or Tucker might be a more impressive candidate to them, that it could be a real race. I mean, it's almost like drawn to an inside straight. I mean, Lamb won by what, 600 votes out of tens of thousands, but it is mildly applicable to this situation.
The phrase, I think, is that this is an election season where someone could catch lightning in a bottle. There's a chance for the stars to align and things to kind of, like you said, an inside straight, things to just kind of run perfectly for a candidate at the federal level on this. CD2 may be the one.
Yeah,
so.
watch to see if Tucker actually is, if we'll do some polling, then if we see if he's well out front, see what his position is on guns. See how, Connor Lamb, I think he was waving an AR-15 at some point in that campaign. Clark Tucker's not going to do that, but let's see his approach to guns. The other is Clark Tucker believes, and many Democrats believe, that the real power in this thing is, and right now, is health care. That people are paying too much for their health care. They're mad at the politicians who are not solving their health care problems, and that there may be the old disaffection for Obamacare and what the Democrats did to us may now be borne in some measure by the Republicans because of their attempts to repeal it, and that they failed, and that what they attempted to do in repealing it was replace it with something that was not that was not a good or
they really didn't have
program.
A plan.
They didn't.
Was the deal.
So that's the 2nd District bears watching. I think it bears watching, and then I'll shut up. I think it bears watching both in the primary, because Spencer Combs, they're driven by passion. I mean,
and Dunkley, right.
And I always forget. Thanks for mentioning that.
That's what I'm here for.
And Tucker is sort of Mr. Establishment. DCCC is for him. He's a great guy and a great legislator, but that's a dynamic to watch too. So
he's got some passion behind him as well. Well, that's a good opportunity for me to plug the fact that we have on Wednesday, April 4th in this studio right here, we're going to have all 4 of those Democrats running for that Democratic nomination. We're going to have Gwen Combs, Jonathan Dunkley, Paul Spencer, and Clark Tucker all here for their very first debate. So it's going to be exciting stuff.
This week?
No. Wednesday, April 4th.
Oh, I thought you meant Wednesday this week.
It's in about 2 weeks from this Wednesday.
Don't get me
It'll be
excited
good
about that. So
well, it's not that far away, actually. So it'll be
that's
fun.
right.
Yeah. All right. Looking forward to it.
What time?
7 to 8 p.m. So everybody tune in.
You going to be doing
around.
it? You and the
I'll
Channel 7 folks?
Chris Mage, Janelle Lilly, and me. We're the gang. They can sometimes shoot straight.
I am very looking forward to that.
He's John Brummett with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. You can keep up with him every day, online and in the papers. Thank you for tuning in. That's all for today's program. I'm Roby Brock. We'll see you next time.